Our scripture reading today, though, comes from the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 5, 13 to 20. I know you don't have Bibles in your pews, so we're going to follow along with a reading that is printed on the PowerPoint. Hear now what the Holy Spirit is saying to the church today. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under a bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets, says Jesus. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Praise be to God.
So it feels like a long time since I've been in the preaching role, and it feels like, wow, it's almost like, I don't know, like I have to get back on my training wheels this past week when I thought, oh no, it's me, preaching again. Trying to get back into the writing groove, as it were. So all of January, I want to give thanks for being able to call on different folks. If you think back, who are some people that you remember from the month of January? Ken Shun, deacon on his way to become deacon. Ken Shun. I remember Becky. Anybody else that you remember? We're all in that we had fifth Sundays, right? So Pastor Mina and I did share a little meditation on that Sunday. So y'all have to forgive me. So keep thinking, friends. The babies have been sick over the last week, and I did not get what they have because they have that croupy cough. But I got the dry one, which I think may be worse. So our reading today, friends, comes from Jesus' best known, and I would say longest teaching, the Sermon on the Mount. If we were to go backwards a little bit to chapter 4 in the Gospel according to Matthew, right? We would learn that Jesus has been traveling up and down in the Galilee doing two things. Proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and the second thing, guess what you think it is? Proclaiming the good news of the kingdom of God, and the second thing that he's been doing is, no guesses? No baptizing. Really? Friends, he's healing. His healing. So proclaiming and healing, those are, in fact, two of the biggest ways that Jesus walks in the world. The gospel writer noted that because of what he was doing up and down the Galilee, his fame spread throughout all Syria, something to take note of given the recent executive order. And great crowds followed him, from both in and around the neighborhood and far, far beyond. We will never know if the great crowds, that's the word from the text, were really great crowds, unlike the inauguration of the U.S. presidents, right? But we can take those words as the gospel writer's way of having us understand that the impact of Jesus was having on people. People were responding to his healing, his compassion, and his teaching. They wanted to hear more, see more, and be in Jesus' presence. And so Jesus is said to sit down on the mountainside with them. Thus, get it? Sermon on the Mount, get it? Yeah. And he begins to teach, right? Now, the sermon begins with what? Okay, you guys have to, I feel like you guys need some exercise to wake up this morning. So, when you do your shoulders, would you? And do your neck. You gotta wake up. Do your arms. There's enough room today. You can go up and down a little bit. Friends, wake up. Be here with us. Okay, yeah, shine your light, right? Thanks, Maggie. So, if we were to say, the Sermon on the Mount begins with what? Anybody remember this? The Beatitudes. Thank you, Wendy. So named, why? Why are they named the Beatitudes? Because Jesus makes 9 statements, all beginning with the word what? Blessed, right? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. The Palestinian priest Elias Shakur, who the pilgrims actually will get to meet, teaches that a close study of Jesus' native language, which is Aramaic, would have us more accurately translating these blessings into calls to action. Father Shakur says that a better translation is, stand up, you who are poor in spirit, for yours is the kingdom of heaven. Rise, you who are hungry and thirsty for righteousness, for you will be filled. Get busy, you who are peacemakers, for you will be called children of God. Father Shakur's point is that in the language of Jesus' day, the Beatitudes are God's pronouncement of honor on those who have been slighted by the world because they have been active, involved, and in his words, getting their hands dirty from dealing with the powers of the world. The ones whom the world hopes to dishonor and punish for their interference in things are the ones whom God promises to honor, bless, and vindicate. So it'd be important for us to stop that pace. If you can just see, we're going to be in this scene pretty soon, right? There's actually a church called the Church of the Beatitudes. There's the Sea of Galilee there, and there's this hillside, and there's this church, right? But the church wasn't there in Jesus' day. Just imagine people filling that mountainside, right? And Jesus is sitting there. All kinds of people. There's a dispute. Was he on the mountain or was he in a boat talking to the people on the mountain, right? But let's think for a second. Who was he talking to? Despite what I just said about Father Shakur's words, Jesus wasn't talking to a gathering of social justice activists, right? Or super involved do-gooders. He wasn't firing up the crowds at the Women's March Galilee edition. Or giving a pep talk, right, to people who had dedicated their lives to making a difference or transforming the world. Here actually were crowds of utterly ordinary folks, women, men, and children, sick folks, actually old folks, curiosity seekers, laborers, folks thirsty for a glimpse of God and some good news. Look around. I dare say that the crowd gathered that day wasn't a whole lot different from us sitting in this room today. So after Jesus blesses these utterly ordinary folks and or calls them to action, whichever interpretation you are leaning towards today, Jesus names them. He tells them who they are. You, he said, are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. And because that's who you are, be salty and bright. Not for your own sake, right? Not for your own sake, but for God's sake. I think we need to hear that too, don't we? For one reason or other, many of us forget that that's who we are. That's who Jesus says we are, salt and light. And because we forget, we get caught up in being all kinds of other things. Instead, we get caught up in being right or good, defined by ourselves, of course. Being successful or liked. But what about just being salty and bright? This morning, I'd like to share 3 stories of being salty and bright that inspire and encourage me and draw me back into the presence of God to pray about how I can live that out best. So I want to teach you a refrain, because after each story, I'd like to invite you to affirm the story and affirm who we are with these words. The words are, bada bing, bada boom. We are the salt, can we do this together? We are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Now more than ever, we will be salty and bright. Okay, no. We need to say this with some, hopefully over time we're going to get more commitment out of that, right? Okay, so we're going to say this with conviction this time, okay? We are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Now more than ever, we will be salty and bright. All right? So we're going to come back to this refrain from time to time. And I'm gonna point at you every so often, Ursula, you, if I want to move, okay? All right, so story number one. Ready? Story number one. I met Russell Jung my first year in the Bay Area, which was February. I arrived on February 7th, 2000. All right, so I met him in my first year. I was assigned to Buena Vista United Methodist Church, as you know, and I was organizing a youth institute. I was off the bat invited to organize a youth institute that explored Asian American identity, history, justice, and spirituality. And Russell became one of our first speakers because of his church's organizing work with Cambodian refugees and Latino neighbors to fight a corrupt landlord in a neighborhood right across the estuary from Alameda. Later, he became my seminary professor, actually, co-teaching a course on Asian American theology and biblical exegesis. Fancy word, isn't it, Arlene? Right? A course that was rigorous, meaningful, and transformative. So after canceling our recent book talk with him, I was talking with him because I couldn't let it go, right? Brenda knows this. I was like, this is not right, because what he has to share is just so amazing. And Becky has already read his book and concurs that the story is inspiring and meaningful. And so I thought, no, we're going to figure something else. And I said, I'm going to come by and get some books, Russell, okay? So I drove, and I forgot that he lives in the Lower San Antonio. Anybody know where that is? The Lower San Antonio neighborhood, of Oakland, which is kind of on the other side of the new Chinatown or the new Vietnamese town, right? So it's kind of a long 80, a little bit too. If I'm driving down south, it's on my left, but it's in like the 16th, 17th, 18th streets, and kind of in the 20s of the avenues, okay?
The barrios.
The barrios. Well, it's not quite Jingletown, right?
No.
But now here's the interesting thing. That neighborhood, my friend, gets a livability score of 54. 54 out of 100, right? Or technically barely livable, right? Hendrik is like, I live there. Do you live there? No, you don't live there. Right.
80.
Yeah.
I'm not home.
You live in Lower San Antonio, so it gets an F, my friend. If we were to look up, somebody's looking for a new home, right? They would look it up. It gets an F in terms of crime, education, and employment. Not a place that you or I would be like, oh, let's go and live there, right? On paper. But it's odd, isn't it? Because there is Russell, a tenured professor from SF State, and his wife, Joanne, who is a doctor at Asian Health Services, very intentionally choosing to live in the hood, so to speak. But that is where they've chosen to live for as long as I've known them. And while the rest of us fill our houses with nice things that make us feel happy and comfy furniture, Russell and Joanne had the simplest of homes. Basics, necessities, no frills, but lots and lots of books, right? Now, Russell invited me to come in for a few minutes, and for some reason we got to talking about this tutoring program that his church has started more recently. He was talking to me about driving. They have a van, and who does this sound like? Driving through the neighborhood, picking up all the kids. about 30 in total. And I said, well, where's this tutoring program happening? And he looks And they just have this tiny, you get into the house and there's this tiny dining area, and this tiny living room area, and then the kitchen, and then a hallway, and then a bedroom. That's it, okay? And I said, where's this tutoring program happening? He looked around, he's like, right here. They fill the house from the front to the back, right? Now, as we were talking, he poked fun at Joanne, who happened to be home at the same time, because she was the one who had stayed and clean up after all the kids while he played chauffeur. This is something that the two, along with other volunteers from the church and beyond, do every single week. Interestingly, when he and Joanne moved there, the neighborhood was mostly Cambodian refugees and Latinos. Today, he told me, Burmese refugees, served by the International Rescue Committee, who we've done some work with, are moving in. As I left, I saw, they live in the upstairs. Another member of the community lives on the downstairs, and I could see a driveway going back, and I thought, wow, this is a big property. And I asked him, so what's towards the back? Is there another house also on this property? And he said, no, we have a huge garden growing in the back, so all the grandmas in the neighborhood can come and grow their vegetables. I have to tell you, my friends, I left there thinking about just those few minutes with Russell and Joanne a lot in these last weeks. About how they live their lives and choose to live their lives. About the choices they make around their resources and time. About what I perceive they've given up and what maybe I'm called to give up. About how he knows his neighbors and opens his home. About being clear, so clear as he is. About what we are called to as disciples. About living, not just sometimes, right? But when I looked at Russell and Joan, it was the whole of their lives are lived as salt and light. Friends, would you repeat? We are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Now more than ever, we will be salty and bright. I hope that is a plug for you to come and be here on March 26th. So speaking of neighbors, friends, I want to share my second story. I happened to be connecting with someone in this congregation this last week as this person cared for his neighbor and was needing some support. The neighbor of our congregation member is an elderly gentleman whose wife died of cancer about 3 to 4 years ago and is now struggling with the disease himself. His child lives out of state, and his one sister lives on the East Coast. So nobody is here to care for him, to walk with him, and so Ed has stepped in. Ed told me that he usually visits Bill at least once a day, or at least calls him on the phone daily, right? Ed has helped him with his paperwork on his will and family trust, and he's spoken with Bill's sister in Philadelphia, as well as having his son's contact information. When Arlene cooks, they share food with him about 3 times a week. In addition, Ed helps Bill out with his grocery shopping, among other things. Ed, and there is a strain through all the stories I'm going to tell today, right? Ed and Arlene missed the book talk in part because they were hoping to rush home in time to be able to meet or pick up Bill, who was coming out from chemotherapy, his very first round of chemo treatment. Ed and I talked this week so that we could think together about how best to pray for and walk with Bill, right? And what words might give Bill comfort. As I talked to Ed, though, I couldn't help but tell him what extraordinary care and generosity he was sharing. It made me think last week, right? Leon talked about this earlier. Last week we gave away packages, care packages to people, unhoused people in the neighborhood. And I don't know if you remember, but one thing that the sticker said is, we're giving this away because this is a sign. This is a sign of God's unchanging love. As I was talking to Ed, what became clear to me was that he was the embodied sign of God's unchanging love to Bill. Were we, right, all so lucky as to have a neighbor as generous and amazing as Ed and Arlene? Imagine for a moment, if you would, how different the world would be if we were to love and extend ourselves for our neighbors as much as Ed loves and extends himself for Bill. Would you affirm that? We are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Now more than ever, we will be salty and bright. So speaking of loving and extending ourselves, bring me to my last story. First, this is where I'm going to need your help, okay? So last Friday, if you were paying attention, at 4:42 exactly in the afternoon, our new president, President Trump, signed an executive order titled Protecting the Nation from Foreign Terrorist Entry into the United States. It bans Syrian refugees indefinitely, suspends all refugee admissions for 120 days, and blocks citizens of 7 Muslim-majority countries, refugees or otherwise, right, from entering the U.S. for 90 days. Now, clearly, some people were hailing this as finally, right, finally, someone is living up to their campaign process of putting America first. Yet it has been widely criticized and ruled, actually, as unconstitutional, immoral, and fundamentally un-American. Not a few faith leaders actually have come out against this also. Now, I'm pretty sure all of us sitting in this room, right, have thought at one time or another, through all the presidents that we have known in our lifetime, gosh, I don't like what, and it's a he, it's always been a he so far, right? I don't like what he's done, right? It's impossible that we appreciate and support everything that every president does. Maybe we've even thought, wow, that's terribly wrong, right? And that might have gotten us to do something, maybe sign an online petition or something. But other than that, I think most of us happily remain couch-bound and engage only through complaining. But here's the interesting thing, right? That executive order was signed on Friday afternoon. By Saturday, hundreds, and in some cases, thousands of others showed up at major airports around our country. To protest, it's true, yes, but importantly, to show solidarity with those being detained and threatened with deportation. Now, here's the thing. Some of you I know are sitting there and being like, I don't know. Protesters, I believe what some folks say. Those people are paid to be there, right? We have that whole idea of paid protesters. But before you write them up, let me tell you about a few people that were at these protests, if you would. So the first one is, there you go, a veteran who served multiple tours through Iraq and received actually 4 Purple Hearts. With his 2 kids actually, to Dulles Airport in DC after he heard about the ban as he was working on something at home and decided, or heard about the ban and realized that the ban was affecting some of the Iraqi interpreters that had worked with the troops. He had never, ever participated in a protest before. His kids, if you can see him, he's standing, I don't have a thing, but he's standing, he's like the second sign over. His kids made signs while they were at Dulles Airport. His daughters read, "Love, not fear." And his son, the younger one right there, read, "My daddy fought for the freedom of all." Buchalter himself held a sign that said, "This veteran stands with you." And as he watched and waited and watched and waited, he finally saw an Iraqi family, a total stranger to himself. But what he did immediately was then to walk up to them and give them one of his Purple Hearts. Loving and extending ourselves for our neighbor because he wanted them to believe that the United States was who it said it was. Who else was there? Actually, dozens and dozens of volunteer lawyers, many camping out overnight, all volunteering to provide free legal counsel to those being detained and their families who are waiting for them, right? It's interesting because you might think, oh, these are all immigration lawyers through immigration organizations. But the fact is, if you start reading about them, there are people that sat there and said, you know what, this is why I went to law school. I don't know anything about immigration law, right? But I'm going to go and make myself available. So there were like mini tutorials that were happening at the airport also. People had the response that this is why I've gone to law school, but I will also, if I don't go, I will regret it in 20 years. They were all writing up their own habeas reports, I think, as they were their requests, as they were working at the airport. So we have Jeffrey, a veteran, lawyers, and then these folks. That 7-year-old Miriam, I don't know how to say her last name so well, Yildirim, sitting on her father's shoulder, who was Fatima, and 9-year-old Aiden Bendat Appel, sitting on his father, Rabbi Jordan Bendat Appel. Both of these families showed up at Chicago O'Hare Airport on Monday. The rabbi said that he felt that he and his family, as descendants of Holocaust survivors, had an obligation to protest. We went to do something that would bring more light, love, and hope into the world. So interesting, he's holding a sign that says, love, love. That sounds like something Leon would say, actually. Love, love, the ultimate romantic. And Jordan is holding a sign that says, hate has no home here. So the rabbi said, we want to do something that would bring more light, love, and hope into the world, and we hope children realize that they have this choice to make. Here's an interesting thing noted by a Chicago Tribune reporter. He wrote, the vast majority of those at the airports didn't know the detainees and didn't have friends or family connected to one of the 7 predominantly Muslim nations targeted in the crackdown. They descended by the thousands on international terminals, coast to coast, to raise the alarm, and here's the interesting thing, on behalf of strangers. That's some loving and extending of ourselves. So I invite you to affirm the story. We are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Now, more than ever, we will be salty and bright. I'd say we are living in strange times, friends. Times in which lies are delivered as truth and truths are denounced as lies. Times in which our call and commitment to be neighbors to one another, to do unto the least of these is being tested. Times in which fear of the other, forgetfulness of our past, and fighting by tweets are held up as virtues. Times in which we can barely hear one another because we hardly know how to listen. We are living in times in which the power of salt and light are needed more than ever. To disinfect our hearts wounded by fear, to preserve human kindness and compassion, to bring out the zest in our diversity, to cast out the darkness of hatred, to reveal the shadowy workings of self-interest, to invite clarity, and for all of us to see the beauty and wonder that God intended. Now, more than ever, we must remember that we are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. We must be salty and bright. And we do so not because it's the right thing to do, not because Jesus told us to do it, not because it'll be easy or comfortable, but because in doing so, the world has an opportunity to see the presence of God's love at work, our healing work, our work that brings people together, our work that bends over backward to love and be generous. Others will see that work and give glory to God our Father in heaven. Amen.
Amen.